welcome the incredible Reshma Jobanputra.
So for this story, I'd like us to go back in time to 1999. And we join a young woman standing backstage at one of the largest events held every year, one of the largest competitions held every year. And as she peeped out from backstage, she saw 4,000 people sitting in the live audience there. She saw 10 judges, all experts in their field. She saw photographers and videographers and from every major publication and every news channel you could think of. And she saw the flashes going off continuously. She was standing backstage at Miss Universe 99. And it wasn't just what she saw out there. Miss Universe is actually one of the most widely watched programs in the world. It has a global audience of 500 to 600 million people. That particular event was being broadcast to 80 different countries. And she couldn't believe that she was standing there. She couldn't believe that she'd made it this far. This young girl growing up in Philippines with big dreams. She'd made it to the last 10. And she was so happy. She was a young woman on the threshold of achieving a life she could not even have imagined when she was growing up. And she made it to the last 10 in a competition where perfection is not rewarded, perfection is expected, perfection is demanded. And she waited for the announcer to call her on stage. Everybody please join me in welcoming Miss Philippines, Miriam Kiambao on stage! And the audience started clapping for her. And she walked out, she looked beautiful. She had this really amazing smile as she walked towards her audience. And she was getting to the last part, just the last part. And what happened in the next few seconds was all a blur. But her heel caught in the back of her dress and she fell over. If there was ever a moment not to fuck up, that was it. I don't know how, but she had the presence of mind. Still, she got back up and she walked to the end and she smiled at her audience and they gave her a standing ovation. And she walked back. To her own surprise, she made it to the last 5. This was a final now. But the final is a lot more now about communication and values and what you stand for. And the host asked her, Miriam, what was going through your mind? What was going through your mind when you fell and you got back up? And she said, I think I represented women everywhere. Women who have fallen off the stage, women who have fallen on stage, but have had the courage and the dignity to get back up and to carry on with the strength and the grace as only a woman can. And I hope everybody can learn from my example. As you can imagine, thunderous applause in that arena. They had to stop the audience from clapping at a point. Now, she didn't win. She was Miss Runner-Up. She was the first runner-up. But I bet you anybody sitting or watching that won't remember Miss Universe, but they'll remember Miriam. And as she sat on the plane going back home to Philippines, on a plane where she had hoped to go as a victor, but when she landed from the reception, she realized she had become something so much bigger. She had become a national hero. She had become an inspiration to women everywhere. If she had gone as a beauty queen, she had come back as a queen of hearts. And if she were here, she would be the first person to tell you, when you fuck up, embrace it, because it may be the best thing that ever happened to you. It was for me. Thank you. Thank you.
I love that story. I think it's just so true that fuck-ups are just part of life, and it's not the fuck-up, it's what you do with it that matters. Feedback.
Go on, sister.
You go.
Okay. Right. So this really great story. I love what you're developing into as a speaker. It's really nice to see. Just be careful with gestures; they don't become too pantomimey.
Okay.
You know, there's a moment you're like, and it was just a little bit acty.
Okay.
And remember that we really work about being present and being in the moment. So I feel for you starting to play the different roles will really help you, but not in an acty kind of really stepping into her beingness and, you know, being in that moment. And you can even tell the story, and she's walking along and, you know, imagine this, the worst thing that could possibly happen. And even falling over, obviously practice that.
Yeah.
But in a way that illustrates the story, and even on the knee goes, and even take us through her thought, like what was going through your mind, you know, 500 million people watching you, 4,000 and you've just fucking fallen over. What would go through your mind? And let us process that, right? And then you get up and really illustrate, and this is what she did. You didn't really need to say much, and people would have got that. So great storytelling. The other thing I like to say is we need to work on your tonality. It's very much the same, and we need to really take it up, take it down, soften it. You're really good as an announcer. You should get a job. You know, please welcome
Mr. P!
Yeah, you should really. If the coaching doesn't work, there's always an announcer, right? But great job, really great.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm such a sucker for stories, and I've heard this story like I don't know how often now, and I just don't get tired of it. Like this is just honestly, I love it so much. There's nothing I can really add. One thing actually, maybe that's only one thing. I don't know if you noticed, but it was just random. Like you did this choreography in a circle, and then again, and I was like, "What are you doing?" So I think because he had a lot of. When she was telling the stories, a lot of moments where you just could have, as Elliot explained, you could have taken us there, like, you know, like when you talked about like the catwalk and the emotional drop, the lead up to it before she fell. Like, I don't know how, like I need to think about it again. I want you to really develop that talk because it's an amazing example, but just really leading up to it and then, because we kind of knew what's coming. We need to work on something. I don't know what it is yet, but I love that story and I'm so excited for you.
Okay.
Really.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.